The Canadian Grand Prix is over, and it was victory for George Russell and Mercedes, as McLaren failed to get a single driver on the podium. But now F1 is moving from Montreal to Austria and the Red Bull Ring for the Austrian Grand Prix, which means that once again it is time for my preview and predictions. This is a series that I'll be previewing, and then at the end of the video giving out my early predictions for the Grand Prix. If you enjoy the video, then please hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. Now though, let's get into the video. As usual, I'll be talking about the top teams later on, so please do stick around for that. Yep, F1 is heading back to Europe and the Red Bull Ring for the Austrian Grand Prix. And for the first time during this generation of F1 car, it is a normal weekend and not a sprint weekend at the Red Bull Ring. Meaning that for the first time since 2021, there will be 3 practice sessions before normal qualifying, giving the teams plenty of opportunities to set their cars up for a race which historically has been a very good one, with high tyre wear and plenty of opportunities for on-track overtaking. It is one of the shortest circuits on the calendar, and it is a circuit with the shortest lap time, as qualifying lap times are typically under 65 seconds. The Red Bull Ring is a circuit with a lot of 90-degree corners, asking a lot from the rear tyres, making it very much a rear limited circuit, which could potentially be an issue for Red Bull when it comes to tyre wear, especially during the Grand Prix. But it is their home race, so I expect them to go all out to try and secure that victory. The circuit is also historically a bit of a car breaker, with the curbs and also the general layout being difficult on the car components. Due to the nature of the circuit, I expect the teams will be running with medium levels of downforce. This is so they have a good mix of straight line speed and also grip through some of those medium speed corners, and to help aid traction on the exits of the very tight corners at the first part of the lap. Due to the nature of the Red Bull Ring circuit, Pirelli will be bringing softer tyres once again, but it will not be the softest tyres in the range, and it will be a step harder than what we just saw in Montreal, meaning that the hard tyre is a C3, the medium is the C4, and the soft tyre is the C5 compound. Last year, it was a multi-stop race, as there was a total of 45 pit stops, with the majority of drivers using 2 sets of medium tyres and 1 set of the hard tyres. There was some who managed to make 2 sets of hard tyres work and use only 1 set of mediums, so there is potential for some strategy variation. I anticipate that once again it will be a multi-stop race, making it an exciting race where they will be using the medium and hard tyres. Overtaking at the Red Bull Ring is pretty easy compared to some of the other circuits on the calendar, and last year there was a total of 46 on-track overtakes. To help with overtaking, the Red Bull Ring circuit features 3 DRS zones. The first DRS zone is down the pit straight heading into turn 1, the second DRS zone is on the exit of turn 1, heading down to what is technically turn 3, and the third and final DRS zone is on the exit of turn 3, heading to turn 4. As you can see, all 3 DRS zones are very close together. After this comes all of the medium speed corners on the track. Last year, the pole position lap time was set by Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, and Verstappen set a lap time of a 1 minute 4.314. During that lap, Verstappen reached a top speed at 324 km per hour, which is 201 miles per hour. In the Grand Prix itself, the race fastest lap was set by Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin, and Fernando set a lap time of a 1 minute 7.694. This was on the final lap of the race, after stopping for some soft compound tyres. I expect that if it is dry, then the pole lap should be beaten, but the race fastest lap might just not be beaten due to Fernando boxing right at the end of the race. I try to say if you are enjoying the video so far, then I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. Now though, let's get back to the video and let's talk about Red Bull. For Red Bull then, the Canadian Grand Prix actually went pretty well. there were fears going into the race that the nature of the circuit might be tricky for them, but Max Verstappen did an incredible job to take the fight to Mercedes, and he was not that far off being able to win the Grand Prix. He finished in P2 and closed the gap up to Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Heading into the Austrian Grand Prix, Red Bull should be feeling a little bit more confident. However, in race trim, Max did struggle with tyre wear and had to pit earlier than his rivals, and that could be an issue at the Red Bull Ring, especially given the circuit is historically pretty difficult on those rear tyres. But Verstappen is still doing everything that he possibly can to keep himself in the championship fight. Teammate Yuki Tsunoda unfortunately failed to score any points in Canada, and again his main goal in Austria will be to just try and score some points. For Ferrari then, their time in second place of the Constructors' Championship came to a quick end, as they dropped back to third in the championship, and for Ferrari it wasn't really a great race. They were slower than Mercedes, McLaren and Verstappen. Charles Leclerc had a very solid recovery drive after a difficult qualifying session, and even managed to lead a couple of laps of the Grand Prix. Leclerc had very solid pace on the harder tyres, and for a while things were looking pretty good, but Leclerc had a very difficult qualifying session which immediately made his race more difficult than it needed to be. Teammate Lewis Hamilton had a great qualifying all things considered, but in the Grand Prix he picked up damage as Gary the Groundhog was flattened by his car. This damage cost Lewis a lot of pace and downforce on the floor, and it ruined what was honestly looking like a very solid performance from him until then. Going into the Red Bull Ring though, Ferrari should be looking good. This is typically a circuit where they do perform well, as it is a track with heavy braking zones and traction being required. They have been pretty solid during the ground effect era at this circuit, and it is typically a great circuit for Charles Leclerc. Although last year he picked up damage which ruined his race very early on. If Leclerc can keep his nose clean, then it is possible he can find himself fighting for the podium. For Mercedes, it was an incredible race as George Russell picked up his first Grand Prix win of the season, and teammate Kimi Antonelli picked up his first ever career podium as he was able to hold off the two McLaren drivers. And for Mercedes, this was a brilliant performance. Whatever they found with the rear suspension really worked for them at this track, and they had a great race. If this change really has helped them, then they could find themselves having another great performance at the Red Bull Ring as well. The 90-degree corners could come in handy for them if they are on top of their tyre wear issues as well. For George Russell, he controlled the Canadian Grand Prix very nicely, and it was a very mature drive from him, and he did well when coming under pressure from Max Verstappen in the early parts of the Grand Prix. Teammate Kimi Antonelli was also coming under serious pressure, but from McLaren. But Kimi brilliantly didn't make a mistake and kept it very clean, even when Piastri tried to dive to the inside at turn 1. Kimi Antonelli is coming along nicely, and with the Red Bull Ring being a circuit he knows well, I expect another solid performance from him. Finally, for McLaren then, the Canadian Grand Prix was their toughest race of the season as they could not get on the podium. And also, the two drivers finally came together. It was a long time coming, but Piastri and Norris finally came to blows on track, as Lando Norris ran into the back of Oscar Piastri, and it looked really clumsy from Lando, as it was obvious where Piastri was going. This was a bad move, and it was another error from Lando Norris, who is having a very messy season. But Oscar Piastri also had a difficult race, and honestly his pace and tyre wear was not as strong as Lando's. Going into the Red Bull Ring, McLaren should be very strong. The rear traction zones and McLaren's ability of keeping the rear tyres alive should see them have a great race, but Norris has to ensure that he doesn't make any silly mistakes that would ruin what should be a fairly straightforward Grand Prix for the team. Oscar Piastri is still doing a fantastic job and leading the championship quite easily, but he needs to make sure he keeps the car and keeps those rear tyres alive, especially at this circuit. If he can and has another strong qualifying, then we could potentially see Oscar Piastri back on the top step of the podium. So with that in mind then, what are my early predictions for the Austrian Grand Prix? Well, for pole position, I'm going to go for Oscar Piastri in the McLaren to take pole position. But what about the top 5 in the Grand Prix? Well, in P5, I'm going to go for Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. P4 will be Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. P3 will be George Russell in the Mercedes. P2 will be Lando Norris. And I'm going to go for Oscar Piastri to win the Austrian Grand Prix. But those are my thoughts. The question is, what do you guys think will happen? In the comment section down below, please do let me know. And as always, comment, leave a like and subscribe for more F1 content. Thank you all so much for watching.